You either hate Fortnite and never play it, or you love Fortnite and it's the only game you play. And you can almost say the exact same thing about PUBG. There really seems to be no in between. But the question is, why? What makes these games so divisive? Is it the type of people that play it? Is it that people resent BR games because of what they did to the industry? Has the skill gap widened so much for these games that it makes people not want to play them anymore? Or has Fortnite strayed so far away from what made it so beloved when it first came out that it's actually become the skidibbity toilet brain rot of the gaming industry? And is PUBG really just the broken game that only nerds play? Are Fortnite and PUBG really that different than games like Warzone and Apex? Or any of the other BRs we've seen? Or is there something more to it, something deeper? The history of BRs in video gaming has seen the rise and fall of numerous franchises chasing the highs of games like Fortnite, PUBG, and Warzone once made claim to. Think of all the different studios who released BRs in hopes of cashing in on that massive trend. Drink your water. From Battlefield 5's Firestorm, to even games you'd never expect like Fallout 76's Nuclear Winter, to even Final Fantasy dropping their own BR. You even had legacy franchises like Halo commit an enormous amount of resources to creating a BR as well, only to have it canceled last second, something that could have completely changed the narrative around Halo Infinite. But through it all, only two really remain on top, Fortnite and PUBG. And if you really think about it, that makes complete sense. Both games fill a spot that's on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Fortnite is about as cartoony and fantasy lane as you can get. It tries to incorporate this vast metaverse of these fictional characters that partake in the least realistic fighting imaginable at a pace that gives you little time to breathe. On the other hand, PUBG is a slow-paced looter simulator that's based around realistic gunplay and prioritizing strategy over technical skills. In Fortnite, high ground doesn't do you much good if a 12-year-old little Timmy can just build a skyscraper while protecting himself as he gets to you. In PUBG, those with the high ground and cover are gonna win 9 out of 10 times. Hit that subscription button. While these games might be polar opposites, they actually act as a perfect complement to one another. And that's exactly what we're going to explore in this video. We're going to talk about what made both of these games stand out and what's helped each of them last throughout the almost decade now. Yeah, that's a thing. Fortnite, PUBG, they're almost 10 years old. We're getting old, people. Well, I'm getting old. Then at the very end, we're going to talk about the differences in the way PUBG and Fortnite players treat one another, and I'm sure that's going to conflict a few people.
Why is this game so popular? And he says to me, it's the story, right? Every new game has a story, has a narrative, has an experience.
The beauty of PUBG is in the conversations, the moments that happen around you and with your squad, and since the game is so much slower paced, it leaves a lot more room for banter. Start the car. Start the car. Start the car. I'm in the wrong seat. But then PUBG has this gambling element that plays a huge role in how addicting it is. All the different possibilities of weapons and accessories really is a high point of this game. Each round you're going to get the opportunity to kit out your weapon in a variety of different ways. The rush of running into a new room to loot is genuinely one of the best feelings in gaming right now. You're basically playing a slot machine, and each time you run into a new building or loot someone's crate, you're just waiting for that dopamine hit. And while you may not be winning money, the feeling of running with a silenced M24 with an extended mag and 8x scope next to your G36C that looks straight out of John Wick is top tier, which of course leads us right into the gameplay aspect of PUBG, which is some of the best we have in gaming right now. Each weapon has a very distinct feel to it, even weapons shooting the same caliber. The fights in PUBG can be extremely long and drawn out. A lot of players are hesitant to run across these large areas of land knowing how easy it is to get knocked. Patience, communication, strategy, they're all so crucial here. In a game like PUBG where all it takes is just a few bullets to knock you, the importance of gathering as much information as you can is vital to winning games. That means you have to pay just as much attention to what you hear as to what you see. This is not a game where you can have music on in the background and expect to have any success. In fact, sound is so important. There's an entire group of people who will get mad at you for talking at certain points in this game. If you've played PUBG, you will understand how important sound is to winning. There's this dynamic range from the complete silence you get clearing out houses to the sudden deafening of a weapon going off in your face as you open a door. Fortnite, Apex, and Warzone, those games all have this abundance of background noises that keep your senses heightened. But in PUBG, it gets so quiet that you naturally are going to let your guard down, and that moment that you do, you turn the corner and it's going to make you scream so loud you think you're playing a horror game. It's an experience you're not going to get in any other game. But that exact same sentence can be said about Fortnite as well. The Fortnite experience is also unlike anything we've ever had in gaming, not just BRs. Epic's attention to detail, their connection to the community, really puts them in a league of their own since the game was released back in 2017. And while PUBG's gameplay and style are most certainly unique, there's There's just no other game that mimics the experience of Fortnite, not even close. The building element has always been what really sets it apart. Whosever idea it was to take The Sims and turn it into a battle royale, that was brilliant. But to say that builds is the only reason that makes Fortnite's gameplay stand alone would be inaccurate. The release of Zero Build on March 29th, 2022 pretty much saved the game, opened it up to a new market, and also proved that this game was so much more than just building. And that same thing will probably be said about first person whenever it gets incorporated into BR modes. And that's the thing about Fortnite. It always has something up its sleeve in order to push their game to the next level. From creative to Unreal Editor to Reload to OG to Fortnite Festival, Lego Mode, and Rocket Racing, the ecosystem they've built is extremely impressive. The game truly is a metaverse. You can log on, pick any of your favorite fantasy characters, and thanks to Unreal Editor, pretty much allow that character to experience any type of game you want. However, none of that would matter if the core fundamental gameplay of Fortnite was broken. And after all the great things we've just named, the best part about this game is still the mechanics, the fluidity of it all. Mantling, sliding around, sprinting, using shockwaves, grapplers, jumping in and out of vehicles, and all the various types of movement are some of the smoothest you're going to experience. Even Warzone and Apex, their sliding and mantling just can't compete. The simplicity of the looting pool and your ability to quickly cycle through weapons makes the game extremely easy to translate to players. Even the necessity to carry a shotgun no matter what mode or situation you're in is exclusive to Fortnite. What other game requires you to carry a shotgun every single round? In fact, whatever shooter has really required you to ever do so.
Let's just drink your water.
Like we said in PUBG, players are hesitant to advance across terrain, and fights typically happen at the distances that they start at. It can be very difficult to get closer to your enemy. But in Fortnite, it is the complete opposite. The reason why you need that shotgun every single round is because 90% of the time, that fight that you're taking is going to end up face to face. A shockwave or a crash pad can shrink the distance between both players near instantly, and that's something you're just not going to see in any other game. Outside of snipers, Fortnite just doesn't have one-shot headshots, something that does exist in all other shooters, which is why carrying a machine gun in those games over a shotgun will always be the meta. The reality is these games, they couldn't be more different than one another. However, there are a lot of similarities in the way that the people that play them are treated. If you've ever asked someone that doesn't play Fortnite if they play Fortnite, they look at you like you've just thrown a baby off of a building, like you've actually insulted their existence by just saying the word Fortnite around them. And on the flip side, if you ask someone who doesn't play PUBG if they play PUBG, they look at you like you're crazy, like you're beneath them, like you eat food out of the garbage bin. Yet, if you talk to anyone who's played the game for the first time recently, you'll probably hear just how awesome both of the games are. New players to both Fortnite and to PUBG really love the games. It's really interesting how both of the games' reputations seem to be stuck in the past. Fortnite will always be that 12-year-old brain rot, and PUBG can never outrun their reputation of being that broken, glitchy game that only geeks play. But this is kind of where it gets a little spicy. If you ask a dedicated Fortnite player if they want to try PUBG, a lot of them are excited. A lot of them want to try out a game that seems to be the complete opposite of Fortnite. They want to give it a try. But if you ask a dedicated PUBG player if they want to try Fortnite, you're more than likely just going to hear an onslaught of complaints and negative comments about the game. While we can certainly argue both games receive an unwarranted amount of hate, Fortnite is on another level when it comes to people just wanting to put it down. You could almost argue that PUBG's popularity was formed in spite of Fortnite, like it had become the rebel game, the game you play to oppose mainstream. But that just wouldn't be fair to PUBG and how really good of a game it is. Every player that game has, it deserves. Editor's note here, I do think it has to be said that eventually the skill gap for Fortnite specifically got so wide that it really began to impact the entire player base. Nobody who was new to the game wanted to keep playing because they felt like they could just never learn building quick enough to compete. And then there was the people that played the game but didn't play the game enough or didn't practice the game enough to keep up with the people that were raising the skill ceiling to a point where now no one wants to play the game besides the people that are at the very top. Does that make sense? Basically, people don't like to suck at things, and if people are all sucking at Fortnite, no one's going to want to play Fortnite. And that's why Zero Builds really was so important. It removed that element that made such a difference in the skill gap. But PUBG never fell into that trap. PUBG never really had an element to the game that was completely new to the entire player base. Everything that's in PUBG has been in previous video games, which means you've had previous experience to get good at it. Before Fortnite, there was no building in any game besides The Sims, and that's not even really comparable. So what are your thoughts? If you play PUBG, do you hate Fortnite? Do you play any other games? And if you play Fortnite, do you play PUBG, and do you play any other games? And if you're a fan of video games, hit that subscription button and turn on notifications. Our goal on this channel is to explore as many video games as we can. Video games that I love, from Red Dead to Metal Gear Solid to Halo to Fable. Pretty much any game that had an impact on me, had an impact on society, and I just want to talk about the things I love and try and relate that to you guys. And if you're wondering what that is, that's my dog snoring. That's Brady. Alright, that's enough yapping for today. And if you enjoyed this video, think about watching either of these videos that's on the screen. As always, hit that sub button and turn on notifications. Go out there and do something great.